You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G., a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. G.
Hey fam, this is Dr. Alex G, and I want to welcome you to another exciting episode of Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G. You know, this podcasting business is becoming addictive. I keep having great guests in the studio. I keep having these great conversations. People are writing me, people are writing me who I've never met. People who are writing me who I've not seen in 10 years, who are telling me that they're loving the show, they're loving the interviews. I've even got listeners down in Florida who are white Floridians who are saying, hey, I must be part black. I knew some of the answers to the icebreakers. And so, hey, thank you for doing that. You know, as always, I talk about the people who are listening around the world, and I really appreciate that. But I truly appreciate the fact that our U.S. base is really, really growing. But again, for folks that are listening in the UK and Ireland, around Europe and Africa and Japan, Argentina, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for sharing. You're in for another treat. I know I tell you that every episode, but you are in for another treat. An associate of mine, a colleague of mine, is in the studios. She is a wife. She is a mother. She is an elected official. She is a pastor. She's a community advocate. She's a daughter of a community advocate. She's a Wisconsinite. She's a thinker. She's a communicator. She's a collaborator. She is Shelia Stubbs. And she's my very, very special guest in the studios. And I just want to talk to her about growing up, who her role models were, what motivated her to want to become a political figure, what motivates her today. Shelia, thank you for being on Black Like Me today.
Oh, thank you, Pastor G. Thank you for doing what you do, which is reaching the masses. I appreciate that.
Well, listen, that means a lot to me. We're going to get into some good discussions. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I start every show with what I call black ice breakers. Break it. And so I got these questions, and it's not to stump my friends. It's just gives us a chance to share and celebrate some black culture together. And so if you don't know the answer, don't like the answer, you could just say pass. But if you say pass more than once, you have to leave the studio. So growing up, grits or cream of wheat?
Neither.
What?
Yeah.
What did you? Don't tell me rice.
Rice.
You ate rice growing up. Where's your mama from? Y'all from Alabama?
Arkansas.
Okay, same difference. So you ate rice.
Yes,
you grew up
sir.
in Beloit, Wisconsin.
Yes, sir.
And you went to Beloit Memorial High School?
Yes, but my parents are originally from Arkansas.
But you would eat rice in the morning. Okay, butter or
Rice.
sugar? Don't tell me gravy. Don't tell me you ate gravy on rice in the morning before school. Butter or sugar?
Sugar, no butter.
Okay, now, you're the first person to answer rice, but I got to let you know, I still eat rice with butter and sugar on it. Okay, that is some. If y'all don't know what we're talking about, you gotta really try that. All right, Shelia, should blue jeans be ironed? When you were growing up, were blue jeans ironed?
Not for me.
Not for you? Okay.
For my mama, yes.
Oh, really?
For my husband, absolutely. Dry cleaned,
All
ironed.
right. Did you grow up on listening to the Jackson 5?
Oh my God, yes.
Can you do the robot?
Oh my God.
Oh, dun 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 dun. Have you ever gone to a funeral where someone either passed out or tried to pull the person out the casket?
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
Did they ever get the person out?
No.
Wait,
it would
hold
have been
on.
a problem if they would have.
Wait, I need to consult my white experts. Eli? Eli's my white expert. Have you, at a white funeral, do you guys pull each other out the caskets?
I've never heard of that.
Well then you haven't been to a funeral, Eli.
You've never been to a home celebration.
Oh my goodness. When you grew up, did you ever know anyone named Mookie, Junebug, John, Lil Man, anything like any?
All of the above. Mookie lived next door to me. He still exists now, and I still call him Mookie.
What about Lil Bug, a Junebug?
Junebug just passed, actually. A real Junebug just passed. Yes.
Whew. Eli, did you know any Junebugs growing up?
No Junebug. No,
Okay, oh my gosh. Okay, all right, let me see. Shelia, fried or regular okra? Or neither?
Fried okra.
Oh my, I hate okra, but you really are from Arkansas.
In Mississippi, it has to be fried. I will take regular okra and greens, though.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I love okra.
Oh my goodness.
You're
Okay.
missing it.
Oh my goodness. So let me ask you.
Where's my okra?
You know, we're gonna get you. We got you. Tyler's gonna be frying the mess of it up. Were you allowed to yell at your mom growing up?
Oh my God, absolutely not. Are you kidding me?
I know Miss Linda now. You can't yell at your mama now.
Lamps, anything that she can get her hands on
She
will
would
come
get
your
you.
way. But she never had that problem with
Got
me.
you. Do you know what Neapolitan ice cream is? Did you eat that growing up?
Yes, it was in my house all the time, but no, I did not eat it.
Tyler, do you know what Neapolitan ice cream is?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Eli, do you know what Neapolitan? Okay.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, see, white people
At
trying
my
to take
house
our
every
stuff.
day.
Let me see. Okay, let me see. Have you ever had Royal Crown soda growing up?
Royal Crown grease
Oh my
for
goodness.
my hair.
Oh, I remember that too. But do you remember the RC colas though?
RC Cola is growing up in my
Oh,
house.
my grandma's. Let me see. I got it. Okay, and here's something. Now, this might differ from place to place. But growing up, were you allowed when you were saying that someone was not telling the truth? Would you say that they were telling a story or a lie? Were you allowed to say the word lie growing up?
Absolutely not. It's story.
It's story.
Until a pastor came to my house and said, you got to keep telling those kids the truth. They're telling a lie. The pastor said it's a lie.
But until this
It's
called
not a
story.
biblical story.
See, it's so funny because my white friends growing up, they don't understand. Like, we were taught that the word lie was a cuss word.
Oh, yes.
And that you could not say.
Disrespectful.
Do you know what cocoa butter is?
Oh, my God, yes.
What's
you
it
put
used
it on your
for?
face.
Yes. Okay, so
You grease up before those fights.
that's right, so that people can't grab
And
you.
scars.
And scars.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right. Eli, do you know what cocoa butter is used for?
I don't know what it's used for. I'm aware of it, but I'm not.
All right, so listen, so Miss Sheila, I went to the Walgreens in Fitchburg because I got a scrape on my leg. I bumped into a chair in the church. The devil grabbed me one day in the church. I was walking through it at night, and hit the chair, and so I'm tired of this scar. So I went to Walgreens in Fitchburg. I had to ask 3 people. They walked me down the lotion aisle, the soap aisle. So they gave me they showed me this little jar that's got this cocoa butter cream. I said, no, I'm talking about the yellow stick.
A stick of cocoa butter.
Yeah,
And it lasts a long
I said,
time.
I need the stick that you push up and it comes like a push up. They looked at me like I didn't know what I was talking about. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna go to Walgreens on Park Street. In your area. That's part of your district.
That's right.
Not only did they have cocoa butter, you buy 2, you get the 3rd one free. They're a mile and a half from each other. One, they don't even know what cocoa butter is. I go to Walgreens.
You get an extra.
And I bought 3 of them. And so, so I'm trying to get rid of this scar. But I walked into a meeting with some friends. I said, do white people use cocoa butter? And they looked at me like, I feel like I should know what it is. Am I racist for not knowing? Like, oh, crap, did I miss the big one? I didn't know that everybody doesn't use cocoa butter. And so, listen, if you're listening to our show and you're white or Latino or Asian, you use cocoa butter, you need to tweet at me at Alex G. Jr. Or you need to write something. Ty, you about to say something?
Well, I just think white people would probably thought you were talking about like a vegan butter, like a coconut milk butter or something like that.
Cocoa. Yeah, oh my goodness, we could help y'all. This helps. Listen, this helps with stretch marks. This helps you after a fall, after a baby, after a fight. All right, Miss Sheila. Okay,
It was a must-have ingredient in your home.
Right. Like I carry one in my backpack. I got one in my church office, and then one from home. I feel completely covered. Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you for those black icebreakers. That's part of one of the favorite parts of my show.
I love it.
I love it because one, you're from Beloit. Yeah. I grew up in Madison. I was born in Chicago. But when I have guests on from Georgia, from LA, we know the answers to these, and it makes me wonder how did black people communicate these truths? Like, how do we say to each other, across thousands of miles, you need Vaseline because that'll do everything.
Oh, yes.
You need some cocoa butter. You need some talcum powder. Like, it's just interesting to me about how thick our culture is and how we hold some of these norms together. And so I just think so thank you for indulging me. I really respect you. We've been friends for what, 13, maybe 14 years.
Absolutely.
You represent a district where I work, my church and my nonprofit Nehemiah In Justified Anger Coalition all function out of that area. But what I want to know is when you were a young girl, what did you dream of being as you grew up? When you were 6 or 8, do you remember what you thought of doing or becoming as an adult?
Absolutely. It was a pediatrician.
Really?
I love kids. And that was my ultimate goal and dream. And then I went to college in Mississippi. And I got so engaged with advocacy and learning my roots, going to HBCU, to Blue College in the heart of the South, where civil rights was so alive. that it changed me. And I said, you know what? I got to become an attorney. I got to go back and do some social action calls and call to action demands. And so that switched me to being an attorney. I was accepted in law school. But again, in the Black culture, we care about our grandparents, our parents. I was the only sibling who wasn't married. And so when my grandparents became ill, I moved back home with my mom. I applied to this world-class university.
All right now.
But I didn't get accepted, but it didn't stop me. I kept going.
You should have called me. I worked in the admissions office. You should have called me.
It's still not too late.
It's not.
It's never too late, right?
I got people.
Never too late. And so I then went on and pursued my political science degree, and I taught college for criminal justice work. And then I became a probation parole agent.
All right. So you studied. That is wonderful. Thank you for how you served our community. But I didn't realize that your undergraduate degree, that your studies were in political science. So you really were thinking about law school, political work, advocacy work. So even as a teenager thinking about college, or as a young adult considering college, political work was on your horizon.
All the way. It was in my home. It was my grandparents were very involved with unions, railroads. You know, I'm originally from Arkansas.
Sure.
So my grandfather was part of the Masons, very engaged in a small town.
Those are deep roots.
Deep roots. And so it was around me. That's what I was breathing. That's what I was learning. I was pulled off to these meetings at the churches and in the basements, at the next person's home. You just did community. And so it's something I've always wanted to do. So it's in my heart. It's my life. It's my passion.
Wow.
It wasn't hard to do.
That helps me to understand you better. My Jackie's from Selma, Alabama.
Oh.
So from time to time, we go back for either funeral services, unfortunately, or family reunions. And so I love walking around downtown, around the Edmund Pettus Bridge. But there's a church, I can't think of the name, but it's on the city side of the Alabama River. And but Dr. King, it basically showed that one of the earliest civil rights meetings it was held in that church, not just Brown Chapel, but it was really held in this church first. And it really opened the doors, or the idea of Black churches hosting civil rights meetings. Now, you and I both live in Madison, where there's not the understanding of the Black church and its integration into all of Black life, civic life, cultural life, educational life. So you mentioned you were taken off to meetings in churches. So you grew up in a place where those types of gathering meetings, informational meetings, political meetings were a part of church culture. That's how the church building was used. That's what you're used to.
That's what I know. I mean, it was where people gathered, right?
Yes.
And you touched all facets of life, and you gave them an issue, and people made decisions, but they listened to their pastor.
Yes, they did.
The voice of the pastor was like thunder. No one came up against the pastor because the pastor gave them hope.
Yes.
And that's what I lived with. And so my pastor, the late Dr. Floyd Pruitt Jr. in Beloit,
yes,
we would have the minority parent organizations. They meet at the church. When we had elected officials, they would host the elected officials.
That's the history of the church.
That's right. The community would have a forum. The community showed up 200-300 people. It wasn't, let's put you here in this district. It's come before this group. This is the community.
Yes.
Why do we want to entrust in you? Why should we support you? What makes you different? What are we going to get? Right?
Exactly.
That was that ask. So if we elect you, what do we get? And so I grew up in that kind of incubator community. My uncle was an alder, city of Beloit alder, Walter Knight.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Is he still living?
He's still living.
He's got to be so proud of you.
That's right. 83 years old. He's actually putting together an event for me in July so I can go back home. There's no place like home, to go back home and share with the community the things that I've done and what they taught me.
See, I love this history because in a community like Madison, it's my home, it's our home. I love Madison. But here's the problem of living in a supposedly progressive community. They're not honoring the history of Black folks. And so I just know, as a person who's run a nonprofit for a couple of decades, the question has come up, well, how could you be a pastor running these kinds of programs? Can we hold programs in your facility? Will that be, will it feel exclusionary? They don't understand that for many Black folks our age and older, this was the gathering place because, one, we owned the facilities. We had control of the facilities. We didn't have to rent out a hall or a hotel if they were willing to rent to us. The church was the first institution on American soil that Black folks controlled, influenced, and led. And I feel that by community organizations not understanding that history and how to work with us, they are slicing away a significant part of our history. And so I appreciate the fact that in Alabama, in Detroit, you talk about the church's role in civil rights and civil rights advocacy. That's a great history lesson. So I'm glad that you mentioned that to me. Were you an avid reader growing up?
Absolutely.
What'd you love to read, or who'd you love to read?
Well, I did a lot of reading from Maya Angelou. I just liked her mindset.
Yes.
It was very, very precious. As I would read, and I'll tell you, one of the books I read and it stayed in my house was the Bible. I mean, people don't look at that as a resource. That was who I was,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Because the Bible gives you all parts of life, the good, the bad, the not so good, the defeating.
Sure.
If you stand up, this can happen. And that was something that my parents made sure I read daily, right? And so I read the Judy Blume books. I mean, it was, the Mary Poppins, you get this fantasy.
Sure.
I was allowed to dream. And that was something that I loved. I could
That's great.
think outside of the box. Even though my community didn't look a certain way, I felt I was in New York if I did the glitz and the glamour. At the same time, I would read stories about the NAACP. Even though I wasn't living back in civil rights, I felt I was a part of that
Sure.
journey, right? Because my mom kept black books in front of me. I mean, my parents both grew up in Arkansas. And so it's important that I knew my history. And so regardless of what the school district taught me, which I went to a public school, my parents had an obligation to teach me the Bible and to teach me my heritage.
Right. They didn't wait for the teachers to teach you those things. How old were you when you moved to Wisconsin?
5.
All right. So did you basically start school in Beloit?
I did.
All right, so your educational experience was there. Now, Beloit's a little different than, for those of you who are listening across the nation, across the world. Beloit is a border city. It's near the border of Wisconsin and Illinois. So it's northern Illinois, southern, southeast, south central Wisconsin. Did you have black teachers growing up?
I did. I had 3.
Wow. I had only two black male teachers growing up. I got you.
Unfortunately, my first teacher committed suicide, who was my relative. And talking about that experience as a second grader.
Oh my gosh.
It was detrimental because I got up and went to school like normal. And all of a sudden and I kept sitting in my seat waiting for my teacher to appear. And she never appeared.
And someone had to come in and explain it.
And explain to you in second grade, what did that feel like? That was my first exposure to suicide. And I thought, she would teach me, she embraced me. And then the other part was she was a relative of mine. She was married to my cousin. So it was a two-way fold. Not was she just my teacher, but she was a part of my family. And I thought, what did we miss? She gave us she gave us all of her during the day. And I started thinking, was it the system? But Beloit's a smaller community.
It is.
30,000 people, but it's a lot of educators. And that's what made Beloit different. It was educators or you're in the industry.
Sure.
GM, Chrysler was all around that. So it was a very mobile community. Money was flowing. As I would say, it was like milk and honey.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And so that was my first experience. And then Miss Tucker was my next teacher. And then Mr. Gupton in high school. So I had 2 elementary, 1 high school.
That has a lot to do with the child's ability to dream and see what they want to become as they get older. Were you involved in student government, like student council or those kinds of things?
Absolutely.
Really?
So FHA Hero, Future Homemakers of America.
Wait, say that
which
again?
Is Future Homemakers of America.
Oh, I
so
forgot.
FHA.
They don't allow people to do that anymore, do they?
No. So it's sort of like
you can't make homes no more.
homemakers.
You can't do that no more.
So I would share with you, it was very few African Americans that were a part of the DECA program.
I remember Distributive Education Careers of America.
Yes.
Come on now.
You on top of things, okay? So FHA/Hero, HERO.
I remember Hero.
Yes. So I was a representative. I ran for office and I represented Wisconsin to Beloit. So we had 72
Really?
counties. Yeah, I had my red jacket on and my blue skirt.
Because you guys would
my
travel
blue-
around the state and have competitions or
Yes.
meetings. I remember.
Yes.
I remember Hero and DECA students got to get out of school.
Absolutely.
I should have did that.
I did. I was actually released from school at 10 o'clock in the morning.
To go to those kinds of things.
Yes.
That's so
I only did
interesting.
school a couple hours, my high school year. Because you would work in the evenings or afternoons. And my first job was at Taco Bell.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. I love talking to people about what they're doing now. But what we really get to hear, are things like, what was your first job? What did you like? Were you in student government? Because what that says to me, Shelia, is that you've been groomed for the kinds of things that you're doing. And a little bit later, we'll talk about things that are on the horizon for you. But I love going deeper into your story and understanding your family, your background, your educational pursuits, your interest are all feeding you, that this isn't just a tangential idea. Hey, life is good. Let me think about doing this. You've been really thinking about public service for a long, long time. And so you mentioned that you worked as a probation officer. Did you say a federal probation? You worked as a probation officer.
Right. A senior probation parole agent for 8 years here in Madison.
Now, people hear about this a lot. I talk a lot with folks who are involved in reentry. You and I bumped into Mr. Dillard out in the foyer, who's a hero of mine and a colleague. Like, in a nutshell, what does a probation officer or a parole officer do? Do you work? Let's go on to another subject. Let's not talk.
No. So
what are they supposed to do?
So this was I thought this was my ideal job, right?
Sure.
I had this goal in life. I had this advocacy. I was going to save the world, and I thought I can walk into Department of Corrections and change outcomes.
Sure.
Immediately. I learned in 8 years.
Oh, bless your heart. You thought that?
I thought that. I was optimistic. I was young.
Help
I
her,
was
Jesus.
ready to do this. It was my first state job that I really had full time, right?
Okay.
So I started off
Wait,
at $11.
that's big time. Wait,
that was
a state job. A state job.
My first state job at $11 an hour. I mean, I worked other state jobs.
That's big time,
$11
though.
an hour.
But benefits and stuff.
Benefits and things like that back in 1998. But I think the other piece that was so important with me was the authority that you have over someone's life.
Yes.
That's incarcerated. You would not believe the things that I had control of. And when you think about a probation parole agent, it is like a person you're checking with every day, all day, that knows your moves. One of the things I tried to do is figure out, why are so many people locked up?
Right.
And why do people look like me?
Right.
And I'm knocking on doors of houses that also are congregants in my church.
Sure.
Or throughout the community. Or I got a chance to know pastors or other people. And they would come and I said, but I'm a great person. Well, why does this person hate me without meeting me? But it wasn't me. It was what I represented,
Sure.
Department of Corrections. And it was bad experiences. And I tried to get in and change things by saying, how do I get them to learn me? What resource do you need? So I looked at myself from a resourceful component. And that's what I tried to do, address residents' employment, support, treatment, transportation.
Sure.
I didn't want people to fail, right? I wanted people to be held accountable for their reactions. But does everyone have to go to prison?
Right.
I mean, so I worked hard on alternatives to prisons in diversion. And I was the only African-American woman that was a probation parole agent in that office. And I came in entry level. And there was an African-American man who came over, but learning that culture, it was just a different culture.
So if this was like in the late 90s.
Yeah, 98.
That was really before we saw the proliferation of black men going to prison. So this is like, right, today we're talking about things like race to equity and over incarceration and Michelle Alexander and Brian Stevenson and all of these things. But if you're working for the Department of Corrections in the 90s, you saw that we're going over a cliff. You were probably making noise about, why are we doing all of this? That all of a sudden Wisconsin...
We're the alternatives.
Right. Then all of a sudden Wisconsin gets known for incarcerating more black men on a per capita basis than any other state in the union. How does that feel, knowing that you were trying to signal danger, and then here we are in 2018, and this is just commonplace? I mean, people are acting like they don't know how to fix it, but they're saying, wow, we really lock up a whole lot of people. This is costing us a lot of money, but you were in the department trying to stop this.
Why didn't my voice matter?
Mm-hmm.
That was the question. Is it because I'm African American and I'm speaking on the masses and most of the people in front of me looked like me? Did it take a different voice, right, to say what I was saying? Did I not articulate it in a component that they didn't get it? I knew we were in trouble.
Right.
In 99, 98, I saw it firsthand.
And
so
didn't
what
listen.
I tried to spend time on is bridging the resources that I did know
Sure.
in the community and expose them to Department of Corrections. Like, for a simple rule violation, do they need to be in jail for 3 days? When they come
Which
out,
means
they've
losing
lost-
a job or losing your apartment.
Exactly. Or relationships.
Or relationships.
I mean, we hear the Dear John letters, and I don't want to do too much comparison, but when people are in the military and they're getting these Dear John letters, what does that feel like? There are people in prison that were getting those, I'm done with you, same letters, and then they could be suicidal, but they're coming out to nothing. And it's like, Why are we not paying attention?
Why are we
Does it
not
not
paying?
matter?
When we started my nonprofit Nehemiah in '92, we were addressing the issues of how black students were not doing well, not faring well in the Madison Metropolitan School District. We were saying, but the rhetoric was, no, these are kids from Milwaukee, these are kids from Chicago who can't handle the Madison rigor of our educational system, to find out that those were kids born in hospitals right here in Madison who are failing. Fast forward, we've got this huge chasm. We're known for the worst disparity between 4th and 8th grade black and white students. But in the late 80s, early 90s, we were yelling, we need a school in South Madison. Before James Wright School was put in South Madison, we were saying we need more black teachers. We need more black educators, more administrators. But I understand your frustration. We were saying this before we got in trouble. Now we're in trouble and people are saying, what do we do? How to fix this?
When did it happen?
Yeah, when did it happen? It's like we were trying to tell y'all 20 years ago this was happening, but nobody wanted to listen to us.
And it only is listened when it's in their house.
When it's in their house or their pocket.
That's right. Then it becomes a priority.
Then it's like, we got to fix this because this is a problematic, and we were trying to say this is not good for anyone. This is going to hurt everyone. But when they thought it was just our kids, just our families, just our men, now it's affecting, so many other things. Wow. So you got involved in politics. You're in your 7th term as a supervisor?
I am.
I can't believe that.
Can you believe that? Right at 13 years.
So your terms are 2
years.
So you're, oh my goodness. And so you ran first in when?
2006.
In
April.
2006. I remember you talking to me saying, hey, I want to do this. You're working for a nonprofit organization. You and your husband had just planted a church in Madison area. And you were interested in politics, and you wanted to serve the community and serve a special segment of the community. Did you think you'd still be doing this work?
I know it's
13 years
God's
later?
grace. I know it's God's grace because it became a point in my life. I'm like, is this something I still want to do?
Mm-hmm.
But I kept seeing the need, and I kept getting drawn in, and the passion, and just every time you think things aren't in your best interest, you look at there's another opportunity. And so
Yes.
that's when I looked at the vibrancy of South Madison and what could be. And like example, Madison College.
Right.
Look at that expansion.
That corridor is
Oh my God.
It's
the
rocking.
library and Urban League, and every time you're
Fountain of Life Church.
Oh my God. Fountain of Life, new development, buying down the car wash.
We took that car wash down.
Absolutely. And when you start looking at opportunities, I'm like, I gotta stay. That's it.
That's your district. And for
That's
folks,
my district.
I'm not anti-car wash, but there's a lot of negative stuff going on there, so we had to take it down. Okay, so you got elected in, you said 2001?
2006, April.
That's right, 2006. Did you ever imagine when you got elected that we could have a black president?
No, but I was on the ballot with them.
Oh, yes.
So that was very historical to me. So I was celebrating a new black president and celebrating me.
Oh my God. No. And you
And
you
Monona
needed to.
Terrace.
But so there's this big change that's coming. So you got elected. And did you run against the incumbent? We don't have to say any names or anything.
Absolutely.
So you ran against the incumbent. You got elected.
Two-term
And I have to
incumbent.
tell you, the community kind of said, wow. Because it's not just the black vote that could get you there. I mean, because you happen to be African American. But, this is a board of county supervisors. There are 37 seats on this. So your communities this might be called something different, but this is
They could be
comparable.
called commissions.
This is comparable to a city council, but it governs the affairs of the entire county.
500,000 people.
500,000 people. County budget is
$500 million.
$500 million. And so you come into this role. I think that there was another African American who was on the board with you.
Yes.
Currently, like you've served
Yes.
your last 6 terms as the only
Alone.
African American
That's right.
on here as his voice among 35 other supervisors. And in our area, for example, human services is under the auspices of the county and not the city government. So you oversee things like that. Is the jail part of the county's
Yes.
purview? The sheriff's
Must
department.
I say, I got the Huber Center closed. It is no longer going to be in South
And the
Madison.
Huber Center is for folks who, so many of our folks are
Sure.
not in the Madison
So
area. It's a work
for-
release program.
Yeah, it's a work release program. So people do pay. I mean, they have to pay for their bed there at night, but during the daytime they go out to work. And that was very important because at one time we were going to lose the bus line. And I don't know for people that remember this, but we watched South Madison get ready to lose a bus line. They had
Yes.
the higher ridership, but yet Madison Metropolitan bus system was expanding bus lines throughout the city.
But not
And-
to South Madison.
But not South Madison. We're going to close the bus line. I'm like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
So I
that's
went to the
crazy.
library and I said, no. And I spoke with, at the time, Kathleen Falk. She's a former county executive. And I said, we got to save this bus line. And we found $10,000 to save the bus line.
That's all it took.
That's all it took.
We're going
$10,000 to save
So
it.
you can take on City Hall or County Hall. You can take it on. So you got elected in 2006, President Obama in 2008. You ever been in the same room with President Obama?
No, in the same space.
You've been in
But
the same
not,
space?
yeah, but not the same.
So,
not
okay,
the Oval Office visit.
Okay, but how did that feel?
Oh my God. Just seeing him, and I must say this quickly. Being a part of the NAACP, we went, and my mom would always travel with the NAACP to regional
Sure.
and national. And he was he was actually in Detroit. And Henry Ford, who at that time was another U.S. congressman. And we were there, and my mom introduced my sister and I to President Obama. At the time, he was Senator Obama.
Oh, my
And my
goodness.
mother said, I'm introducing you to the first black president. We're going to get our first black president, meet President Obama. And my sister laughed. I was like, yeah, right, Mom.
What year was that?
God, it's been at least, I have to ask my mom, at least 12 years when he was a U.S. Senator.
Oh, my goodness.
I should remember the year.
Sure.
So now you're going to make me
No,
work
that's-
hard. We were in Detroit. The NAACP was in Detroit.
Oh, my.
And I was just like, are you kidding me? So when I saw him and I thought, my mom being a spiritual mother, she saw something in him a long time ago.
And she
before
called it out.
And she called it out. And now look.
But can I also tell you, she saw something in you too?
Yes.
I mean, she
Yes.
called that out about him. She was dead on, but
Yes.
she also saw something in you. When you look at black women who are elected officials, not that your role models are limited to black women, but who are some of the black women who are serving either on a county level or assembly, state senate, Congress? Who are some of the folks who, when you're in a room or if you have a chance to be in a place where they're speaking, you just say, wow.
Oh, my God. So I was just in the room with Senator Kamala Harris.
Really?
And she wowed me. I mean, I could
She's
see her
wowable, I
as
hear.
I could see her as the first African American president, woman president.
Wow.
I saw that in her. She has the charisma. She has the vocal. I love Maxine Waters.
I was hoping you were going to say her.
I love Maxine
She's
Waters.
getting
I've
feistier
never
as I like
shook
her.
her hand, but she gets it. She's very grassroots, and she doesn't. When she wants to fight, she is going to fight, and I know she fights wholeheartedly for her constituents, but then all of U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be a one-on-one with Maxine. Can you make that happen, Pastor
You know
G?
what? You know
Get
what?
her here.
You know what? Let's. If I can get her on the show, would you like to come on and be on the show?
I would
with her?
love to just be in her space. Absolutely.
Okay.
That is someone that I've asked to meet. I have met First Lady Obama several times.
Have you really?
I did. I met her when she was here campaigning for
Sure.
President Obama
Sure.
at the Overture Center. And after that speech, I said, oh my God, they're going to take just bits and pieces and they're going to destroy it. And I said that to her. And then I met her when she was in Watertown with her water initiative.
Sure.
And I shook her hand and had my White House official photo.
I love it. I love it. So, now a couple of questions I want to ask you, and I'll just try to fire off a bunch of them so I can just get some quick answers. What is it going to take for us to get more black people out to the polls, just in general? Because, like when President Obama was on the ballot, we showed up. So just like a 20-second thing, like what do you want to say to folks who are black listeners or friends of black listeners, people who think it's not important to vote? Just can you just say something about the importance of just the black vote on even local elections? Because the presidential ones are not just the important ones, but the local elections. Just can you say something
The
about
black
the importance?
vote will make the difference. That's it. Our votes
We
are
can
not
swing
being
elections.
counted.
You're saying we can swing
We
elections?
can make seats happen for us. Our vote. That's where the momentum has been with the Democratic Party. It has been the black woman's vote that brought the momentum
Well,
to
then
Alabama,
we saw.
Virginia.
I was going to say Alabama.
Ben Jealous.
Yes.
He just, he's a Democratic candidate for governor in Maryland. It matters. And when I knock on the doors, do black people understand the power that we have?
So we have to keep reiterating that. So as a pastor, we've got to get back to reminding people of that. I'm a part of of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity
Absolutely.
Incorporated. But
And I'm with Delta.
You okay? All right, now, hey sis,
You got my red on.
come on now. But one of the important things that's considered as like when I was expressing my interest and wanted to be involved was show me your voter registration. It's important. Like you can't be a part of our organization and you're not handling business. I think pastors have got to start asking people before you get in a leadership role, show me your voter registration. Show me that because if you're not really trying to make society better, there's no way that you're going to come here and try to make this organization better.
Voter registration.
Folks died for us to be able to vote.
That's right.
They can't just be
That's
sitting
right.
at home watching Netflix
No.
talking about my vote doesn't
And
matter.
then telling me the after fact. In this race, we have to make sure when we wake up the next morning, the results is what it should be. We have to work. We have to work extremely hard.
Yes, we do.
We got to get people to the polls. We have to keep up with them.
So this is school board, this is city council. And again, I just have to reiterate,
Municipalities,
it's
yes.
not just a presidential. Like people think, okay, our vote's not going to matter until either we try to vote Trump out or we get another black candidate. School board, council, assembly, states, folks have got to get out and vote.
Local elected officials is closest to you,
Yes.
right? County board supervisors.
They influence
school
your
boards,
life.
They're the ones that's making the policy. And with the state, you see that the state is going after local control. Why? Because local control is making a difference. And I'm telling you, keep up with the voters. Every vote will count. Every vote does matter. Stop showing up on election day and being a provisional vote.
Right.
That doesn't help. Go and early vote.
Early vote, register to vote.
Absentee
handle
vote.
your because our relatives, our folks, my in-laws are from Alabama, as I told you, Selma. I go and stand on that bridge and I think about the people who died, who were hosed down, bitten by dogs, just so that we can vote. It is an affront to black blood, to our own legacy, to sit at home and talk about the systems and people and issues, and you don't carry your behind to the ballots,
And here's
to cast a ballot.
Here's the other piece. I've always been a member of the NAACP. It is the parent. That's fine to be a part of other organizations, but our institutions that we've made it with have been churches and the NAACP. Go be a part of both of those institutions, and then you can work everywhere else. But we got to go back home.
We got to get connected with these
We
organizations.
got to get connected.
We've got to stop being so individualized. And so I guess what I would love to do in my podcast is to promote positive outcomes. So we've got to stop being so, we can't be islands. We can't be so rugged and individualized. That's not traditionally been the black worldview. So we've got to be connected with organizations like our churches, NAACP. We got to be a part of the urban leagues and even new efforts like what we're doing through Justified Anger and Nehemiah. But you got to connect with stuff where black folks are really talking about empowerment, leadership development, and really helping to set an agenda, because that's what we did. Civil rights was not about black people marching.
No.
It was about black people setting an agenda that bettered America. It wasn't just a
That's
black
right.
agenda for black people. And that's why I want people to understand about your work and my work. You're not a black elected official. You're an elected official who's black and a woman, but you're a mom and you're a wife and you're a pastor and a leader and all
That's
these
right.
other things. But you got to serve Dane County. You can't just walk around just only concerned about black issues in the county. And so we need to remind our folks that our history and our legacy, the richness of civil rights, is not just mobilization of folks in marching. It's about setting an agenda, setting a black agenda that strengthens our community, that benefits the whole. What would you say to young African-American young ladies who might be in high school or college, who want to be influencers, who might be on their way to medical school or law school, and are thinking about what they want to do in the future and have never considered public service? What would you say to folks to help them at least be open to the idea of public service as an elected official? What would you say to young African American
Absolutely.
girls
First of
who've
all-
never had anyone put in their heads?
First of all, one of the things I did is I was a part of student government. My voice had to be heard.
So that's one thing people can do.
That's one thing. Number two, I went to church. It just wasn't optional in my house.
Sure.
It was mandated. But I loved and I met with my first lady. The first ladies of the congregations can reach other young ladies in a capacity
That's very
that
true.
someone else can't.
That's very true.
So that was one of my role models that I didn't list, but Miss Regina Prude.
Sure.
I would meet with her. But the other piece is get involved in organizations like the NAACP.
Of course.
They know history. You have to know your history. You can't wait for people to tell you. And then one of the things that I will say, Pastor G, very openly, we need to hold people accountable, elected officials. We need to get a scorecard. We need to grade you. If
Sure.
you're not doing what you are supposed to be doing and what you tell us when you visit us every 2 years, come back. Ask people to come back.
Sure.
Reevaluate. But one of the things I do, I always do speaking engagements. Invite me. I will come and speak to your class. I'm with Delta. I spoke with the Delta Gyms. That was an opportunity. Dance groups. A lot of these young girls are part of dance groups. Go there. I find myself places, because I have an 8-year-old,
Sure.
that I wouldn't normally be, but I will go. And I think that's a piece. But reach out and tell someone what it is. Don't be alone.
Right.
Because you may not reach President Obama, but you can reach somebody who have that pathway, right? Your
Definitely.
pastor can open. He has access to so many doors. And that is a huge resource, because where does electeds show up? They always want to come to Black churches.
I would love to consider doing either a podcast or some type of gathering where I invite young people, young African Americans, to be given a speech by an elected official to say, hey, consider public service. If I organize that either over a podcast or in person, would you consider coming and talking to them?
Would be honored to do that.
My cousin and goddaughter just graduated from UW Law School about a year ago. She just passed the New York bar, so she's actually an assistant district attorney in Brooklyn. But in her swearing in, she couldn't make the general one because she was traveling. So she did an individual with the Supreme Court justice. She, after they went through all the stuff, signed all the papers, she said, I want to talk to you and your family before you leave. And so she signed everything. It's just her and the justice. She sat my niece down and she said, she's my cousin, but I'm older. But so I said, call her my niece, Cassandra. I'm giving her a shout out. She said, what are your plans now? She said, well, I'm about to take the bar in New York. She goes, great. But here's what I need you to do. I need you to come back to Wisconsin, and I need you to run for Supreme Court. So here she is as a young African-American woman. Is that what they had at the Supreme Court? The justice.
Yes.
They had the justice.
The Chief Justice.
The Chief Justice, thank you. Says to her, I need you to come back and consider running for my position. So they're recruiting folks right out of law school. That was powerful for me to know that someone was putting this in my niece's head. I would like your help and help of other African-American law officials, elected officials, and maybe other friends of our community, allies. I want to start taking some of these sharp young folks who are socially entrepreneurial. They're really into community change, but no one's even putting politics on their radar. I don't know what they're thinking it requires or what it costs, but I think that in addition to talking to people about becoming teachers and doctors and becoming community activists, we have to talk to our young people who are sharp about public office.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can say that down in Mississippi. I helped get U.S. Congressman Benny Thompson elected. And
Did you really?
Absolutely. I mean, they came to the schools and they mobilized students. That's how we did it. They came, they mobilized. We had time.
Right.
So they said, here's right, we want you. People died for your right. You're right here in Mississippi. I felt honored to be a part of a campaign. They just asked. So the first thing is asking.
You got to ask them.
And then along the way, I've even talked to some women and I've said, I need you. I need you to be a part of Dane County. I need you to get in elected positions. I've talked to two administrative law judges and said, why don't you run for judge? Like, we need you to become a part of a bigger vision.
Sure.
Right? Because you already have the experience. Someone just needs to push you up forward. And,
Exactly.
You have people that can train you, but you need to be trainable.
Right.
You need to be accessible. But then don't just say, I'm not good enough, or why me? Take it that they see something in you. They want to push you.
Listen to that.
Listen to that. The other comment is Derek Johnson, who's the president and CEO of NAACP.
Right.
We went to college together.
Oh, really?
Tougaloo College. And I knew Derek was going to do something great. We always say connected with the NAACP. And look now, he is the president and CEO of the NAACP.
Can you help me get him on my podcast?
I hope he'll return my call, Derek Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson, President Johnson. A little bit earlier, you said that one person you'd love to have a one-on-one with is
Maxine Waters.
Maxine Waters.
Congresswoman.
Tell me one deceased person, world leader, it could be a relative, who you'd love to be able to spend an evening with over a meal. You told me who your live person is.
Wow. My grandfather.
Really?
And the reason I say that because he was different. I mean, he was a provider. He worked the railroad tracks, but he was a visionary. And I think to allow him to see that I took all those stories that he would share with me at night. And, I watched him go and make a difference in the governor race. And he was that kind of person. He would go and say, Mr. Governor candidate, what are you going to do for me?
Really?
If I give you my vote and I have all of my friends, what are we going to get out of? I mean, and we don't have those bold leaders anymore. So I want my grandfather to see this is what you get out of me.
Oh my! What's your grandfather's name?
Earl Pig.
Earl P-I-G? Or
P-I-G-G.
Oh, guess what? You got to put that second G on. Do you have a barbecue restaurant?
No.
Because that would have worked.
No.
Earl, I know he got teased.
Earl Pig.
He
That's
could
my
fight.
mom.
He was tough, wasn't he?
He was tough.
Because if your name is Earl Pig, you got to fight. Because wait, was he light skinned too?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, he had to fight.
Native American and black. Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
Oh, Mr. Pig had
They
to
saw
fight.
Mr. Pig coming.
Mr. Pig has a
He held people accountable, but
that's
what you
all,
need.
folks.
That's right.
So tell me this. So with Mr. Pig, what you said he was involved in unions,
Unions.
and he worked on the railroad. So, but he
Worked
wasn't
on
a
the
porter.
railroad,
So he
right.
didn't. Do you think he knew? Did he know any people in the what was it called? The Pullman, the porter
You
union?
knew
Do you-
people everywhere, and that's where my mom gets this from. Even now, I'll say to my mom, where, I'm always thinking, where didn't he connect me? Because they have so much wealth and experience and knowledge and connections. And in the ground, in the cemetery, there's so much.
Listen,
The best recipes, it was a pinch and an inch. My grandfather had a world-class connection. And that's the part that I miss most. Like, what is it there that I didn't get?
I got a feeling you're pulling it out. I got a feeling you're drawing on it, Sheila. We've become so mobile in our society that we don't necessarily live around our grandparents. And so we've got to find some ways. There's some things that we're dreaming up for our work, our next endeavor in this community, but it's to bring generations together. I'm blessed that my mother-in-law has lived with us since Lexi was born. Lexi's 21 because Lexi was real sickly, as you know. And so my mother-in-law moved in with us to take care of Lexi, to help us take care of her because she couldn't go to daycare because she was too frail as a preemie. But the benefit of growing up around that generation, and my mom lives in this community. So Lexi grew up seeing these strong black women who are part of civil rights. Jackie's mom marched in Selma. My mom, drove down to Janesville to work at GM, but worked on a master's degree here in Wisconsin. So Lexi gets to benefit from this. You and I got to put our heads together. How do we make sure that the Mr. Earl Pigs of the world are sitting down with these young men and women and just pouring out this wisdom? We have somehow believed that young people don't want to hear our wisdom. I have learned that they do. So they think we don't have time for them. We think they don't want to listen to us, but we got to get those gray hairs and those young folks in the room, because their love for technology, their ability to think globally, mixed with the wisdom that's just mother wit that we grew up around,
right.
They can become true world changers. Hey, as we wind up, I'm really enjoying this. Time always flies. You've got some exciting things that are coming up, as if you don't have enough to do. But as you're considering your work in the community, you've been serving us for 13 years.
Yes.
There's a new endeavor, and it's public now. It's not even rumor mill that you're running for state assembly.
I am District 77. I'm so honored. District 77, which is the south and west parts of Madison. It starts on the border of Bridge Road and includes Bridge Lake Point Community and Allied Drive.
Wait, that's like both ends of the spectrum. So not just economically, but on so many levels. But if anyone could bridge those communities, who've been part of those communities, it's you. So
in addition to that, the district goes over to include the UW in the village of Sherwood. So you have two of the
Really?
very affluent part of the district merging
course.
in with communities of color that have served with all kind of economic barriers. And so I see myself as a blend.
That's powerful. So elections are normally like late year, like the fall, but there's
primary.
But there's a primary that's coming up soon.
August 14th is our primary, and it's 4 Democrats that's running. So we don't get a chance to try again the next time. So whoever wins August 14th will be the next state rep.
So we're going to know real soon who that person's going to be. So when you're traveling around the state, and you got like 15 seconds to talk about your experience and why you're really good at this, tell me why this needs to be you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a proven leader. I'm a bold leader. I'm an effective leader, and I get things done. And I think that's what most people recognize. I have over 55 elected officials current, and former elected officials that believe in me. Experience does matter.
That's impressive.
Experience matter, and I've gotten things done. And I think that's what most people want to hear. I understand the priorities. Education has to be the number one priority. And Department of Corrections can't be our number one priority. That's where money is going, $350 million dollars going to Department of Corrections and prisons. We got to create the pipeline for education and sustain it. That's huge.
And sustain it. Dang, that makes me want to vote right now. That's so true. Let's not just talk about what's broken and what's fixed. I mean, what's broken. What are we going to do to fix it? And you're right. I think because there's not enough emphasis on education, the growth of the criminal justice system is a result of failures or missteps in that area. So I really appreciate that. I know your husband and co-pastor has got to be really proud of you. I know your daughter. She's 8. Does she understand what it means that she's sharing her mom?
She
with
is.
The community?
I had an event Tuesday night, and everybody's yelling, Sheila. She's like, Mommy. So she saw a big difference. That's my mom. That's my mom. That's Sheila to you, but this is a different part of me. So sharing her and my husband, so honored. I must say this, Pastor, prayer is what I live on. Right. And if it's God's will, let God's will be done. And I truly believe he's called me to another capacity.
Wow. And I love what you said about experience matters and that you're a proven leader. So after the primary, the person who wins, they assume that seat or that role immediately or in January.
Yep, but I'll keep being on the campaign trail because we have a November election.
So folks who are in the assembly, you have offices
at the state capitol. And so for folks who don't understand what this is and why it's so important, tell me a couple of roles that the assembly takes care of. Like, do you have to keep the governor accountable? You Absolutely.
have to approve state budget.
The state budget, you hold the governor accountable, you represent your constituency. And I think it's something really important, Pastor G. Dane County has never elected a person of color to the state capitol since the state became a state
in 1848. So this will be the first time.
Yes, and this is a very historical race.
Wow. I love that. So the primary is when?
August 14th.
People can start registering to vote?
So early vote starts at the end of July. And absentee ballots will go out after that, 2 weeks before the election.
Now, I have to say this. I'm a voter. I think it's really, really important. I can remember when I turned 18 and I could vote for the first time as a college student. I didn't know I could vote that early.
Absolutely.
I know about absentee votes if I'm traveling because I will just be getting back in the country on the 14th. But so tell me again, people can just go to their normal polling places. Where do you like if people live in Madison, where do you go to poll early? The city county building?
You can go to city county building. They'll have extended office hours, but I actually went to the Goodman Library in South Madison.
So you can go to
right
polling.
To the library.
You can go to any library?
Yeah. They have certain libraries, and it's usually all the libraries around Madison, and they have extended hours just for early voting.
What's your website?
www.shelia, Shelia, Stubbs, STUBBS.com.
Got you. So Shelia Stubbs, SHELIA, Stubbs with 2 B's.
And an S.
And an S at the end. S on the front, S on the end. Is there any information on your website that tells people how to early vote?
Absolutely. We've put it out there. My website is an exciting website. Immobilized. It gives you information. You know where I'm going. And let me say this, Pastor. Nothing's being given to me.
Sure.
I'm working hard. So you'll see how hard I'm working. I'm looking for volunteers. To knock on a door, lit drop. I need all the help I can get.
And people can go to the website and
go to my website and sign up.
They can donate. They can support
Funds
you.
is important. This is going to be about an $80,000 election.
Okay, so this is important. This will be historic.
Let's not wake up and someone's bought the seat.
Right.
Let someone who's worked hard earn that seat.
Right. And we saw in 2016 what happens when we don't get out and vote.
Absolutely. And I'm the only candidate.
I'm talking about on a national level. We can't just wake up and say, oh, we have a voice.
Yeah. It's critical. I'm also the only candidate who's earned the retiring State Rep Therese Berceau's endorsement. She knows she served this district for 20 years. She knows firsthand who can do the work.
This is incredible. Well, listen, folks, didn't I tell you at the beginning of this episode that this was going to be exciting? Sheila, thank you so much for how you serve the community as a wife, as a mom, as a pastor, as an educator, as a motivator, as a volunteer, as a person who always takes people's calls and very interested in what's happening in the community. Thank you for being the lone African-American representative on the Board of Supervisors, because I know that that's not always an easy thing. And so I appreciate your ability to live on the front lines, because that's not easy to live in a fishbowl. It's not easy to be a thought leader, trendsetter. So for all of those things that you do, I really, really appreciate it. I wish you all the best in this election. But thank you, because I know this is campaign season, and you took out time to come by the Black Like Me studios to tell us a little bit about your story. I feel like I know you better and understand your history and your makeup, which makes me even more confident in the work that you have done and that you will continue to do for our community. And so thank you so much for being my special guest. And if I find a way to get Maxine Waters on, I would love for you to come into the studios, or Derek Johnson at the NAACP. You help me get to Mr. Johnson, help you to get to Miss Waters.
So make me come at Texas to see you at National.
Derek. That's right. And so what a great episode. And so listen, folks, we always try to provide you these great opportunities so that you can listen and learn and live better. You can always catch us on iTunes or on Spotify. Tell your friends, share the information. But there's some great things that are going on here, and we want you to help us to get the word out. So thanks so much for being a part of the Black Like Me family.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. You can find out more about Dr. Alex G's amazing work at www.alexg.com. Black Like Me is sponsored by the generosity of the Human Family Unity Foundation.